I mean, take something like what we've learned about trauma, which is relevant, I think, to each of us, given the reality that we've all had experience in this life that we weren't able to process consciously for whatever reason. And, what is trauma? And what do we mean by that word? And is it relevant to me and to my life? And if so, how? We Do we overuse that word in contemporary culture, or do we underuse it? And what is the relationship, if any, between working with unlived experience, emotional and somatic material that's come to be held in the shadow, in the somatic unconscious, or speaking more from the language of neuroscience, experience that's been held in subcortical and bodily circuitry, in our muscles, in our cell tissue, in our bellies, in our hearts, in our throats, in our faces, in our shoulders, in our nervous systems, in the way we breathe. And, because whether, any of us identify as someone who's experienced trauma, where we'd use that word, or more technically speak about traumatic or post-traumatic stress. We live in a world these days where trauma is ubiquitous, meaning there's a high level of autonomic arousal on our planet right now, and also in the collective. And we will inevitably bear witness to trauma, if not in ourselves, then in others, in our world, on our earth. And at some point, we will be asked by life to be a companion for someone who has or is experiencing traumatic organization, which is a particular way of organizing our experience and perception in our bodies, our minds, our nervous system. And it's important territory for us to explore together, for ourselves and also for others and for our world. And we can go into this during the year together at whatever sort of depth and level that you're drawn to do so, which is going to be the reality with a lot of what we're speaking about. It's going to come from you and come from the field, the depth at which we go into any particular topic or area, or whether that's narcissistic type wounding or attachment insecurity or meditation, communion, union, unity. We're going to have to step into the vessel here together, and we're going to have to listen to what it is that emerges, to where we're being drawn, to where we're being called as individuals and also as a group. And, more spiritually speaking, what is that relationship between trauma and between traumatic or narcissistic or attachment organization in the body and the nervous system, and opening into the mystery, into the unknown, into that innate, radiant, clear light nature of the human person, into the divine ground itself? The more spiritual side of the journey that unfolds by way of those archetypal experiences of communion, union, oneness, unity. These are important questions and areas for us to go into as you're interested, of course. And there's going to be a lot of space this year, to really explore what it is that's most meaningful for you, that's most alive for you, that's most relevant to you, on the side of personal psychological healing, attachment wounding, shadow material, the way we get activated in relationships, which is the most evocative form of our wounding in many ways. All of those inner children, the lost pieces of soul, and all of the figures of psyche and soma, and also in exploring the more transpersonal or spiritual areas of the spectrum of consciousness and meditation and contemplative experience. Things like non-duality and unity consciousness, and everything in between. Soul work, dreams, active imagination. And while I, of course, have my own personal interests and research, it's all open for exploration.